Yeah, it's that little Chico Pitbull. You already know what it is. This right here is
Authenticity Radio with Slade Suter.
L.
Right one. Let it rain over me.
Mr. Worldwide.
I'm rising so high out of my mind.
Mark
So
Anthony.
let it rain over me. Let it rain over me.
And now, your host, who has the hospitality of a fat and jolly innkeeper, Slade Suter.
Hello and welcome to you. This is Slade Suter broadcasting to you from Barcelona, Spain, Breaking Your Bad Habits, Part 2. In the last program, you made a decision. You chose to take many of the repeating patterns that had up till now been lurking in the background of your life and bringing them into awareness in a place where you could observe them. And so you wrote them down on a piece of paper, and you did this in a non-judgmental way, which means that you made a conscious effort not to place any judgment, whether it was good or bad, on them. Today, we're going to continue with awareness. We're going to take a look at the triggers, and then we're going to take a look at replacing the habits. Not just eliminating them, but replacing. As we begin the second part, it'll be important for you to be as honest as you can. So please use your imagination and look to your right, and you will see a hat. And on this hat are the words non-judgmental. Go ahead and place it on your head. It'll be important for you to continue with this non-judgmental attitude so that you do not become a judge, because judges need to make a value judgment between what's right and wrong, what's good and bad. And that can lead you to a place of righteousness or guilt and blame, both of which are disempowering. There is a cartoon, old cartoon, by the name of G.I. Joe. And at the end of the program, he always came out and said, "And remember, knowing is half of the battle." And you think about it, he's right on in this context. You took something from the background in your life and brought it to the foreground. From out of consciousness into consciousness. Out of awareness into awareness. You brought it into the spotlight. You're actually able to see the pattern that has been unfolding over and over again. And it makes sense that the second part of this phrase should be, and action is the second half. So this is what we're about to do. We are going to make an action on ridding the unhealthy and destructive habits from your life. So let's go ahead and pull that paper back out, the one that you did your exercise on in the previous program. We are going to label each and every one of the habits that you found as a repeating pattern in your life. And I'm going to ask you for a favor. Please, oh please, refrain from the words good and bad. Good habit, bad habit. This is a good habit. This is a bad habit. Because what that does, it brings you, as I said before, in a place of a judge, and it disempowers you. Be creative and use the words forward, backwards, and neutral, just like the car metaphor that we used in the last program. Forward brings you closer to your essential self, to your spiritual self, to your authentic self. Backwards brings you further away from your best self, your spiritual self, your authentic self. Takes you away from. And neutral neither draws you closer or away. It's just something that happens to be repeating in your life. Now go ahead and assign one of those three labels to each one of those repeating habits on your paper. When you've finished, we can now proceed in identifying the triggers. So we can start by asking ourselves, what is a trigger? Well, we can see it as a cause and effect. The trigger is the cause, and the effect is the repeating habit in your life. We're interested here in the backward, destructive, and unhealthy habits. Okay, so let's focus on those. Go through the entire list again and write down the trigger. What is the cause that makes the effect? The pre-recorded, unconscious, repeating habit. Okay? And here's something that may help you. If you're a little lost, you can ask yourself, what benefit do I get from this backward habit? Ooh, that sounds kind of funky. Let's say that again. What benefit do I get from this backward habit? And if for example, if I'm driving in traffic and I'm cutting people off and I'm rude, then you can ask yourself, what benefit am I getting for this backward habit? Oh, well, I feel superior, or I feel stronger, or I let out my aggression. Well, then that will point you to the trigger. The trigger is, if I'm feeling stronger, then I must feel weak. Okay, so the trigger is because I'm feeling weak or insecure. That's the trigger. For smoking, if I'm wanting to take a drag on the cigarette, well then, what benefit do I get from smoking the cigarette? Well, it relaxes me. I feel more in control. Then it points you to the trigger. Well then, you must not feel relaxed. You must be uptight. Trigger is uptight. And I feel like I'm in control. Well, then the trigger is out of control. So out of control and uptight are the triggers in that case. So you get the gist? Now go through the entire list and specifically focus on the backward habits and write down the triggers. Now, after you have successfully identified all of the destructive and unhealthy backward habits, and you've identified the triggers, now you're in the position to do something about it. For the next and final part of this exercise, I want you to make a commitment that every backward habit, you are going to replace it with a forward habit. Okay? So you are not only going to try to drop the backward habit, but you're going to put an action in place. So let's see how this can look. Remember that knowing is half the battle. Okay, so consciously, you know that when you get into traffic now, that you have an unconscious tendency of being rude. So how do we replace this backward habit with a forward habit? It starts with making a commitment to do your homework before you get in the situation where the trigger is. Okay, so you're wondering to yourself, well, how can I do this? The idea is to replace each backward habit with a forward motion. It's not quite a habit yet, but we hope to get there. So right now we have a motion, and you're going to put in motion, you're going to put into action something that is quite contrary to the habit itself. So let's take the traffic example again. Before I get into traffic, I'm making the commitment and I'm doing my homework and I'm saying, okay, what is my trigger? Okay, well, I kind of feel, when I feel weak and I feel insecure, then I'm rude. Okay, so you take that and you look for something quite opposite. Oh, what would be quite opposite with me in traffic? How about today, when I get into traffic, I am going to make the conscious decision to be extraordinarily nice. And I'm going to put a quantity. I'm going to look for at least 5 vehicles that I'm going to be nice to. And I'm going to try to let them in or let them pass. I'm going to drive at a normal pace. So you set a goal and objective for the day for yourself. So what you have effectively done, you put yourself from a place of disempowerment to a place of empowerment. And that place of empowerment has a byproduct of making you feel good. And the reason you feel good is because you're moving forward toward your authentic self, which feeds on itself. And every success that you get in doing these exercises, take some time and pat yourself on the back and say, good job, good job. It helps a lot to acknowledge every victory as you set out to replace your habits. Take some time write down how that day went and how you felt as you were letting people in. This is another way to reinforce that behavior for yourself. And so that's it. We've arrived to the end of kicking your bad habits too. You have everything that you need to set out and to start to put forward motion to your backward habits and be as creative as you can and find ways to remind yourself, creative ways to remind yourself. If your alarm is going off and you do not want to, and you want to remember not to hit snooze, well, place your alarm on the other side. Do something out of the ordinary. Anything that will help you trigger your unconscious mind to conscious again will help you keep the forward motion going. Putting your wallet in the other side, removing your ring to another finger, these type of things. And as you do that, it says, when I recognize my ring is on the other finger, I will tell. I will call my mother-in-law. I don't know why I keep talking about my mother-in-law. Maybe I should call her. So that is it. And by no means is this a scientific method. It's just a logical approach that makes sense to me, and I give it to you. And perhaps both of us can make some headway on breaking some of our bad habits. This is Slade Suter. Until next time, be authentic, be true, and be free.
That has been Slade Suter Live on Authenticity Radio.
Slade Suter, live on Authenticity Radio.
If you would like a workshop or seminar from Slade, go to www.AuthenticityRadio.com. Until next time, be yourself.
Program terminated.